Chapter 11. Calibrations. A familiar kitchen held the boy once more. He was 14 now, a pale, dark-haired teenager seated at the same wooden table, though the clutter around him had grown more specialized. Potion vials, handwritten notes, and measuring tools covered the surface. A bubbling cauldron sat nearby, and in front of him stood a curious glass apparatus made of tubes, valves, and a narrow collecting vial. His mother stood behind him, watching as he worked. The boy lifted the apparatus and set it into place so that it could catch the steam rising from the cauldron. The vapor moved through the glass pipes, curled through a series of loops, and condensed into the vial at the end. "You don't guess with magic," his mother said. Tobias adjusted a small valve. The vapor moved more quickly now, flowing cleanly through the tubing and into the vial. "You measure it," she continued. "Control it." She reached over and turned the valve just a little farther than he had set it. Immediately, the vapor backed up in the pipe and began to spill from the wrong end. Tobias reacted quickly, correcting the valve before the apparatus could fail completely. He breathed hard, concentrating. His mother's voice was cold and steady. "Too much. It breaks. Too little. It fails." She looked down at him, then back at the apparatus. "Precision is the difference between power and nothing." Then she walked away. Tobias stared at the dial for a moment and allowed himself the smallest smile. Back in the Auror office, Harry and Ron were going over a file that had come in that morning. "It's our man." "All right," Ron said, tapping the parchment. "Stolen high-end arcane instruments. Precision stuff. Most people don't even know what they do." Harry frowned. "Stolen from where?" "Private collector just outside the alley in London," Ron said. "And he had a memory gap. He didn't know why the protections didn't work." Harry thought about that. "So he didn't just take ordinary magical tools?" "No," Ron said. "Not remotely." They went to inspect the collection themselves. Inside the private shop stood a row of glass cases, each one displaying metallic instruments that reminded Harry uneasily of the odd artifacts he had once seen in Dumbledore's office. They spun, hummed, sparked, and flashed faintly when activated, though Harry had never known what any of them were for. One case had an empty space. The collector pointed to it. "This is where it was." Ron bent closer. "And what are these things exactly?" "Calibration tools," the shop owner said. "Magical measuring devices." Ron squinted at the row of cases. "Measuring what?" "Magical density, dispersion, stability ranges." Harry and Ron exchanged a look. Harry asked, "Can you remember anything else?" The man hesitated. "Only that someone came after closing. Our night guard answered the door, and after that, I can't remember much at all." That night, in a private collector's shop in London, the masked man knocked on the door with the vial already in hand. When the door opened, the guard stared at him in startled silence. A Death Eater mask was not what anyone expected to see after hours. The man flicked the cork from the vial and said calmly, "1." He stepped inside. The guard's expression went blank almost at once. By the following morning, the collector had reported the theft, and Harry and Ron were already piecing together what had happened. Harry stopped beside the empty case and said, "Potion stabilizers, dispersal compounds." Ron caught on immediately. "And now measuring tools." Both men paused. Harry looked at the display cases with new understanding. "He's not stealing random things," Ron finished the thought. "He's building something." Back in the Auror office, Harry and Ron had papers spread across the desk, each file representing one item stolen by the masked thief. Ron ran a hand over the pile and muttered, "Stabilizers, dispersal compounds, and now measuring tools. What even uses all that?" Before Harry could answer, the door opened sharply. Gawain Robards entered with a different energy than usual. There was no room for ambiguity in his face. "Potter, Weasley." "Yes, sir," they answered at once. Gawain wasted no time. "The Ministry Archive theft report. The missing Gringotts plans. They're out." Ron stared. "Out? How? Leaked?" Harry asked. "No," Gawain said. "Not leaked. I don't know how, but Diagon Alley is already talking. They're saying a Death Eater walked through a Ministry vault." "That's not what we found out," Ron said. "It doesn't matter what you found out," Gawain replied. "It matters what people think." Harry felt the sting of that, but he also understood it. "So we correct it," he said. "With what?" Gawain looked at him steadily. "You don't have a suspect, you don't have a method, and you barely have a pattern." Ron straightened. "We're working on it." Gawain stepped closer, firm but not hostile. "Then work faster." He turned slightly, as if to remind them of the wider damage. "Shops are closing early. People are pulling money out of Gringotts. The goblins are just about ready to revolt." Harry nodded slowly. He could hear the old fear in that now, the same kind of fear the wizarding world had lived through before. "You remember what that feels like," Gawain said. Harry and Ron both nodded. As Gawain turned to leave, he added, "Anything you need, let me know." The door closed behind him. Ron let out a long breath. "Great. We've got a ghost in a mask stealing things no one notices, and now half the wizarding world thinks the war is back on." Harry was quiet for a moment, thinking. He wants that. Ron looked up. "What?" Harry's eyes moved over the files on the desk. "The panic. It buys him time." Ron nodded slowly as the idea settled in. "Right." Harry looked at the stolen item reports again. "He's building something." Ron's expression sharpened. Then he had an idea so sudden and obvious that he looked almost pleased with himself. He pulled his coin from his bag and tapped it. "Hermione, can you come down here for a minute?" Harry nodded. Of course. Good call. Hermione came down from her office on the minister's floor not long after. Does this have to do with that rumor about a Death Eater roaming around Diagon Alley? She asked as soon as she arrived. Both of them said yes. Harry spread the items out in front of her. Look at these and tell me what you could make from them. Hermione studied the stolen objects carefully, her expression sharpening as the pieces began to mean something. Well, she said slowly, you're not making any potion with these things on their own, but you could use them on a potion that's already been made. Her eyes brightened as she worked it through. The dispersal compound would spread a potion, especially one that turns to gas, and the stabilizers could be turned into a time delay trigger by allowing chemicals to break down in measured amounts. It's very advanced potions work. Harry glanced up at her. Spreading a gaseous potion at different times. Hermione nodded. Exactly. Then she frowned. What does that mean? Harry did not answer right away because he was already thinking through the pattern. I don't know yet. Hermione looked toward the door. I've got to get back upstairs. I hope that helped. Harry and Ron both nodded at once. Loads, Ron said. Hermione smiled at him. You've got this. That night, the ministry maintenance man sat at his workbench. The tools were lined up neatly before him, measuring rods aligned with precise care. A large square bottle sat in the middle of the bench, its contents held in a faint, swirling mist. He placed the metal mask over his face. He opened the large square bottle and added a single drop of stabilizer. The mist immediately condensed, settling into a lavender powder at the bottom of the bottle. The man looked at his pocket watch, then sealed the bottle again. He removed the mask as it was safe to breathe the surrounding air again. He counted down quietly to himself. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inside the bottle, the lavender powder turned back into a swirling purple mist. He watched it with a satisfied expression, though there was nothing warm or emotional in it. Only completion.